Welcome back to the Pittsburgh Sportscast, where two college students discuss all things Pittsburgh sports all year round. I'm Ryan,
And I'm Chris.
and today we will be talking yet again more Pirates baseball as news continues to develop at Pirates camp. Various intra-squad scrimmages have been happening. We'll also be delving into Pirates bullpen issues. There, of course, are many, but we will get into them. And finally, we will be talking a little bit about the Penguins' postseason schedule as they return to play in Toronto come August 1st. So, without further ado, let's get started.
Okay. The Pittsburgh Pirates played a couple intramural games over the weekend starting on Friday, believed to be played Saturday and Sunday as well. It's kind of hard to get information from these games because they're not televised, they're not on TV, so we're kind of relying on Twitter and Google to get our information from. Ryan, you can take away with game Friday, I guess. I guess the first game on Friday.
Yeah, so ultimately, Friday was the day that they first played. It was essentially, according to reports from the Post Gazette, it was essentially a five. The the area in which they were playing actual baseball was about 5 innings. Then the rest of the game ended up being a simulated game. There ended up being coaches playing in the infield. There was Derek Shelton, the manager, was out there along with David and Rick Eckstein and Don Kelly. So talking about guys going out there. But as for the small sample size, so really nothing conclusive from this game. Team Black versus Team Gold was Trevor Williams getting the start for Team Black, and Robbie Erland, set to be a bullpen guy, a bullpen piece. Uh, could win a major league roster spot with these expanded rosters, but he was the starter for Team Gold. Um, so Trevor Williams went strong, pitched 5 innings, gave up just 4 hits and 1 earned run, and he was thankful to limit the damage of that 1 earned run. Uh, with runners on first and third and nobody out, he got Jacob Stallings ground into a 6-4-3. Obviously, the run did score, but no RBIs for Team Black or Team Gold, I guess. Yeah, Team Black was the defensive side, so. But then Robbie Erlin started for Team Gold, and it was mainly bullpen guys playing in that game. Clay Holmes, Nick Birdie, Michael Feliz. Again, really nice to see Nick Birdie back on the mound. Obviously, remember that horrific arm injury we saw. It was just really troubling to watch. He was on the ground in agony. Really thought it could have been a potential career-ending injury. Luckily, it wasn't as bad as originally feared. He did end up missing the rest of the 2019 season, but we're lucky to have him back because any sort of bullpen depth is greatly appreciated, especially on a team like the Pittsburgh Pirates. Also in that game, Gregory Polanco uh, was able to get an RBI single in the bottom of the first, and then Luke Maley, a solo home run. He's a catcher on the roster. He hit a solo home run off of Michael Feliz. Really good start for him, huh? But so Team Gold ended up in front, or yeah, no, Team Black. I'm sorry, ended up in front 2-1. I believe that was the final score of the 5 inning mini game. Yeah, it says that they're hoping to do something like this every day.
I think it's important to realize that that I think when from looking from a fan point of view, And it's important to pick up on trends. Like what hitters are putting some streaks together? What hitters seem to be really knocking the ball around? Are there any pitchers who look confident? Um, I think I think as fans, that's what we need to look for in these games. Not necessarily the scores or whatnot, just who's playing well, who looks like they're in shape. Is anyone struggling? Does anyone look tired or out of shape? I think those are very important things that we can look for as fans in these inter scrimmage games before we hit like actual teams.
Yeah, definitely. Uh, Again, I think it's really nice. They've been saying good things about Gregory Polanco, the way he's been hitting, both in BP and in live gameplay. Obviously, I just said he drove home a run, hit a nice solid single up the middle. But other than that, Gregory Polanco, uh, definitely one of the really big necessary pieces in terms of the success of the entire team, because it seems that during his time as a Pirate, he his performance tends to dictate the performance of the rest of the players in the lineup. I guess he just kind of passes his mojo, whether that be positive or negative, on to everyone. He is, I do believe, with the departures of Marte and whatnot, the most the most senior Pirate, I think, on the team. He made his debut with the Pirates in 2014. I don't believe anyone else with the Pittsburgh Pirates has been there longer.
I
So,
would agree.
so that means he could essentially be a team leader. He can, and that's why I think he ultimately is kind of dictating, the squad morale, like I said, positive or negative. And then ultimately, I'd also be really interested to see how Josh Bell does with the shortened 60 game season and the possibility of him becoming a DH. Would definitely love to see him get hot in the way he did in the first half. He got, what, 20 some homers in the first half of the season, ended up going to the home run derby. Really nice. Should have been voted in as a starter, but unfortunately, the Atlanta Braves have way too many fans, and Freddie Freeman ended up the first baseman instead. But yes, I think at the end of the day, if we can find success in Polanco and Bell, I think that the rest of the offense will ultimately follow suit and get on that positive train, because making making runs, going on win streaks is much more important now in the shortened season than it is in 162 game season. You know, if you look back on that team back in 2018 that won 100, or that didn't win 100 games, that won 10 in a row at one point. And again, Gregory Polanco had probably one of the best stretches of his career during that portion of the game. That was a point at which Josh Bell began to show that what he could do. Obviously, he debuted in 2016 and had that monster of 2019 first half, but we saw flashes of what he would eventually do in 2019 in 2018 during that 10-game win streak. Ultimately, of course, we know what happened. We got Archer, and then we fell off the table while the guys we got used to get Archer ended up succeeding. But if we can see flashes of that brilliance, then I think ultimately we could make a run, and we'll see what happens. Ultimately, though, it's going to come down to whether our pitching is actually competent.
Competent pitching is important. I think another player, if we're talking offensively, to look forward to or to kind of look at is to see how Brian Reynolds plays. He hit a home run this weekend. He was by far the Pirates' best player in the second half of last season. I believe he won the Pirates Rookie of the Year. I think he if he can maintain, because those are your three guys, right? It's going to be Josh Bell, Gregory Polanco, and Brian Reynolds are going to be your big three. I think you have question marks with Dyson offensively. I think he's a speed guy. I don't
Definitely.
necessarily know for his bat. you know, Kevin Newman showed flashes of maybe being consistent, but again, there were flashes. But again, like you were saying earlier, in a 60-game season, you only need flashes. You don't need to play 162 games. You need to play 60. So I think that's important. If he can get going, Frazier, I think's average. If he can maybe play a little better, our catching's abysmal. Let's just be frank about it.
Hmm.
It's abysmal. Colin Moran is, again, I think there's a lot to be desired from him. Um, and I would like to see more of him. It's just he's slow. He looks like he has some power. I don't know if he can hit for average. Like, I just don't know what type of hitter he is, and he seems to make a lot of errors at third base too. Um, yeah, I don't know. And then JT Riddle, I don't know why he's on this team, if I'm being frank about it.
I
Uh,
don't just I don't see I don't see how he could ever have a place in the lineup, considering we got guys like um, Kevin Newman, Adam Frazier, Cole Tucker is also a contender to make the opening day roster. I put all three of those guys ahead of JT Riddle, who is also in that middle infield kind of comp, but he's obviously on that 60-man taxi squad, so he
yeah,
will ultimately get game time. It's just be interesting. I don't think he'll get much. I mean, he technically has played outfield before, but I don't see him there either with Reynolds, Polanco, and Dyson. So,
what are your thoughts on the Pirates maybe trying to sign Yasiel Puig as like a DH or something?
I mean, honestly, if I were to sign Yasiel Puig, I probably I probably put him in right field. Then I'd move Polanco to left and put Reynolds in center, and it would probably be essentially a replacement for Gerard Dyson, along with shifting the outfield around. But I think apparently he's available for cheap, um, uh, due to Corona and stuff like that. But I would definitely not be opposed to signing a guy like Yasiel Puig. It all obviously he's had issues off the field, and he's also had issues with the Pirates. Of course, remember that big brawl he got into with us. Don't I that would be my only concern would be uh chemistry in the locker room with teammates. It all comes down to that. Ultimately, I think with a shortened season, I think the his effect on the locker room kind of gets minimized because it's only for a short period of time. But so yeah, I mean, if he's available and no other team really wants him, I would not be opposed to getting Yasiel Puig.
I just think we need a game plan, right? Because our pitching's horrendous, which we'll get into later. So I think we just have to try to outscore as many people as possible, and we need as many bats as possible in order to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. I mean, it's kind of like uh, another shameless plug for Miscellaneous Sports Mondays. Remember, you can listen to Miscellaneous Sports Mondays wherever you get your podcast. It's just us talking about all sports all across the world, and we keep talking about my team in the English Premier League, Chelsea. We kept talking about how they had this real good offense, right? And they have real good players that they're ready to sign, and they're going to have one of the best offenses in the world. But on defense, so for analogous to the Pirates, our pitching staff plus bullpen, which we'll get to later, is absolutely horrendous. So yes, you can score all you want, but you can't expect to win every game. In the Pirates' case, 7-6, 9-8. You can't expect to win all those games. You have to have competent pitching. So, I mean, yes, signing Yasiel Puig would definitely improve our offense, but I mean, playing devil's advocate here, I don't know why. Obviously, it is cheap, but I don't know why it would be worth it. Um, if your pitching's gonna fail you anyway.
Well, here's why it's worth it. A, because if we do end up failing, you can flip them for some draft picks or some prospects
True.
at the deadline or something. And number two, there is no big name pitcher out there that we can get.
Very true. I mean, this is the only guy we got, right? Only guy that could improve the team that's out there, that's reasonably obtainable. I mean, like I said, ultimately, I think signing him would be the right move. Um, some fans would not like it, but hey, it's baseball. You gotta have good players if you want to win, and
Or
I think
just not
that's
suck. We're not even trying to win. I just think we're trying to be average.
yeah. At the end of the day, but yes, ultimately, uh, if you put down Yasiel Puig, if he said, I want this much money, which apparently isn't too much. Want this much money, just 60 games this year, and he put down and said, "Here's what I want." I'd say, "Go ahead, sign the contract. Welcome to the team."
Agreed. And I think he would be in ratings too, because I think he would, as you kind of mentioned earlier, have that love and divide. I'm sure some people would love him, I'm sure some people would hate him. I think it would get people talking about Pirates baseball again. Aside from, so we're gonna come in last place or second to last place.
I don't even know about. Well, we'll have to see. The other four Central teams are looking really stunning. Um, Obviously, the Cubs and Cardinals are there every year. The Brewers nowadays, they're in their window where because they're a medium market team, so they'll have about a 5-year window of success and then a 3-year window of rebuild. Right now, they're in the midst of that successful window, so they're successful. And then the Cincinnati Reds have just completed their rebuild, and now they are on the upward trend. Some people have them pegged to win the division, and then you have us. So, yeah.
Who has the Reds winning the division? I want to talk to them.
I mean, it's a very up in the air because again, it's 60 games, so practically anyone could win anything. Um, the less games you have, the more of a crapshoot it becomes. And thus you have some people claiming Cincinnati can win the division because they say that their team's capable of making one of those runs. Again, we just talked about it. You don't have to be good for all 162 games. You just have to be good for 60. And some people think the Reds are capable of doing that. So I ultimately think that they will come in fourth, just ahead of us. But I'm just saying that there is a case for people to pick them as division winners.
Interesting. That was very, very interesting. I'm excited to see what this, because I think it's like you said. I think a lot of teams are going to be in it. Which again is where we get screwed as Pirates fans because our start is so awful.
Indeed.
You know what I'm saying? If we had like a decent start and could maybe put a streak together, but when you got to start like the three best teams in the league, that really puts you behind the eight ball, especially in a 60-game season where you don't have a lot of time to make up ground.
Really frustrating. You know what the most frustrating part about this whole thing is? When the MLB Network was coming out with everyone's schedules last week, the Pirates were completely skipped over. They did not put up their schedule. They put up the schedule of every other team in the Central, but they skipped the Pirates. And that's the official MLB Network. That's not even ESPN, of course, who only will talk about the Red Sox, Yankees, and Dodgers. Other than that, you might as well be playing rugby in the middle of Antarctica. ESPN won't bother. But at the official MLB Network, which is generally considered an unbiased source of baseball coverage, being that it's the official network, completely skipped over the Pirates schedule. And I guess if you're the Pittsburgh Pirates, it's kind of eye for an eye because we've shown how Bob Nutting, doesn't care about his team in the past. So MLB responds with, fine, we don't care about you guys either. And so they won't even put our schedule up there.
Baseball needs fixed.
Go talk to the owners and Rob.
Man, even you should if you're going through schedule, go through every team, even if the team sucks. The NFL Network goes through the Jacksonville Jaguars, they go through the Detroit Lions, they go through the Cleveland Browns. Why can't the MLB just do things right?
Yeah, I know a lot of fans are kind of mad at the blackout policy. Obviously MLB will black out. So it basically, if you live in an area that has a cable TV station that broadcasts MLB games of a certain team, you can't stream those games on MLB.TV. A lot of people misunderstand blackout rules, and they say that they're to promote fan attendance, but that was where the old NFL blackout rules. The MLB blackout rules are to try to make you subscribe to a cable provider so that you watch their games and you watch their commercials. But ultimately, I still think this year would be a great year to provide some sort of exception to really grow the game and allow people in their home markets who don't have cable anymore to be able to watch their team's games. Unfortunately, because of all the money issues and the cable companies and the millions of dollars in TV money, that will never happen. Yeah.
Interesting. We got completely sidetracked.
I know, but hey, we're only 22 minutes into this podcast. So, but yeah, so why don't we get into the next segment, huh?
Okay.
Yeah, so
I'll read to you the Pirates bullpen roster.
Okay.
And you just give me your thoughts. We have Nick Birdie. We have Kyle Crick. We have Michael Feliz. We have Clay Holmes. We have Keone Kela. We have Dovius Neveraskis. We have Richard Rodriguez. And Chris Stratton. What are your thoughts?
Okay. So, I can only say that I'm confident in two guys, Kela and Crick. Everyone else, well, Birdie, Rodriguez, and Feliz are okay. But if you told me if I were betting my life on no runs given up, I wouldn't hand them the ball. Everyone else, no. Just no. It is so frustrating as a Pirates fan because during that window of success, our best feature was our bullpen. As it was so amazing because our bullpen was so dominant that every game we played, essentially, we got to bat 9 innings, and the other team only essentially got 6 innings. I do believe during 2013, the Pirates only lost, I think, 2 games when leading after 6 innings. Nowadays, that's totally unheard of with this bullpen. It is so terrible to see how they have fallen. Really, it all boils down to Felipe Vasquez and the atrocities he committed. It really sucks when the best player on your team, yes, he was even better than Josh Bell or Marte or anyone else, in my opinion. When the best player on your team is a pedophile and is banned from the league and arrested, then when your closer, who is also the best on your team, just leave because of or is now gone because of that, that really kind of is the domino that sends everything downwards. So obviously, I like Kella. Like I said, I like Crick. I'm okay on Birdie, Rodriguez, and Feliz, but everyone else is just not good enough. Robbie
Well,
Erlin,
well what
Nick, Chris
Derek
Stratton,
Holland.
Derek Holland, who may be a starter. They don't know. Dovidas never pitch him. Clay Holmes. Come on. It's
What people
we've
forget
talked.
too.
I know we've talked a couple episodes. We've talked about how abysmal the starting rotation is, and that's bad enough. But now, having even if we had a good starting rotation, what's it matter if you can't hold a lead, right? You got to make 27 outs somehow. It will be a very long and arduous journey just to get 27 outs every game. We're gonna have to really pull some strings and
Well, what's
go to
interesting is that if you remember, we traded Mark Melanson, who at the time was our lights out closer for Felipe Vasquez.
I know, and at the time it was looking like a really good deal because we thought, great, because he was even better than Melanson was, and because he was even more lights out. I mean, this guy can throw 102. He can locate it. He can hit you with that off speed. He's essentially our own Aroldis Chapman. But then, of course, like we said, he's just a crap human being who decides to touch kids. So,
And remember, before we continue, we were going to trade him to LA. We are going to trade him to the Dodgers.
yeah, I know. We were trying to get guys like Gavin Lux, who's now tearing it up over there. He was a big piece towards the end of their season, Gavin Lux. Um, LA was really, really desperate to find a closer like him, but ultimately he uh, ended up just just being gone because of that. And
He
now
wound
that
up in the Allegheny County jailhouse.
yeah,
I
and,
mean,
and yeah,
I think Richard Rodriguez has potential somehow.
definitely.
I think depending on Nick Brady was playing well until he blew his arm out.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's all going to depend on how well he's recovered from that.
Even Kella's up and down though. Like he's not that consistent.
Man,
And
it's
Crick kind of gives up a lot of home runs. So even your two like solid guys are like, eh. But then you could argue, are the home runs given up because they're that bad? Are they given up because the balls are juiced? Are they given up because of the way Ray Seawards wanted them to pitch?
yeah. See, that's the thing with me. Like all this pitching stuff, I'm kind of taking with a grain of salt because I'm willing to give the new regime a chance. I'm willing to see what our system can do, especially considering it's actually driven on analytics and the modern statistical elements of the game. Um, you know, Instead of looking for quick, efficient innings, we're looking for good spin rates and low launch angles for the other team and both on the defensive and the offensive side of the ball. It's I'm really That's the one thing that I'm really looking forward to see how this new coaching staff, how they're able to implement the system. Hopefully, we can get more strikeouts because obviously striking out guys was never really a standout element of the Pittsburgh Pirates pitching staff, as we all know, and it is both the reason we were able to find success in the early 2010s and the reason which we failed in the late 2010s.
Well, my issue is are our guys even talented enough? Like, you can do as much math as you want, but if the talent level isn't there, there's not a whole lot you can do.
Yeah, true.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, look at what Billy Bean did. I mean, those players still had to go out there and they still had to prove him right every game. You know, it was up to them to perform and make him look like a genius. Like I said, at the end of the day, you can sign whoever you want, but your players got to be good enough too.
Right. And you can play any way you want to, but if your players can't play that system, then I don't know what good it does. You know what I'm saying? I just don't know. Like I said, I think Richard Rodriguez has talent. I think Nick Birdie has talent. I think Kirk has talent. I think Keone Kela has talent. Now, again, kind of going back to what we were talking about on Miscellaneous Sports Mondays, can the Pirates develop that talent now? It was proven that Ray Searage could take old goods and make them new. He was not able to take fresh talent and do anything with it. Now it's up to this regime to figure out how to take. I mean, you can add Mitch Keller, who's young and has talent potentially. It's just again, and we've talked about this in our previous rants, and I think it applies with the bullpen too. The Pirates for the past 30 years have not been able to develop talent. Except for that one span in the 2010s where we were able to somehow figure it out. But
Yeah,
if
that
you
was
eliminate that era,
that
we
was a
haven't done
case.
it.
That was a case of the blind squirrel finding the nut.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly. So now, and again, and then you hear it in Pirates, Twitter and Pirates fandom of, oh, we need to trade Josh Bell to get, and it's a conversation you and I have had off podcasting platforms,
yeah.
right? And people are screaming to trade Josh Bell. And I'm like, okay, you trade him, and what? You trade him for prospects that what you have to keyword develop, which we have never been able to do. So why would you trade away Josh Bell, who can play baseball, for a bunch of people that you have to develop, which we've proven over the past 3 years we have no idea how to do?
Yeah, I ultimately I haven't obviously we haven't seen any of the new regime. Obviously, developing is definitely hit a snag because there's no minor leagues this year. Um, so we won't be able to see what our drafted guys. I think they've all signed by now. But it's really unfortunate we won't be able to see what they can do yet. Um, hopefully, our minor league coaches have been able to communicate with them in some way and monitor how they've been doing. Um, but it's really frustrating that we're going to have to wait till 2021 to even see those guys on any field at all. But Dems beat a breaks, as they say.
Which slows the development for players that we desperately need. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand
Yeah.
COVID-19 is a thing, and I get that. But, like, no minor league baseball now means, dude, that only doesn't affect the Pirates, that affects every team. It affects all
True.
30 teams. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, teams like the Yankees and the Red Sox can buy their way out of stuff. Which is why we need a salary cap in baseball, but that's a different story. But
Definitely.
But with like the lower market teams, even like the Brewers, the Royals, teams like that, they need that minor league development and they're losing it. Because let's be real, the majority of like the Yankees, Red Sox, Dodgers, the majority of the really good players, they don't develop, they just buy them. Like they didn't develop Garrett Cole. You know what I'm saying? I
Correct.
guess
It's kind of
they
like
developed Aaron Judge, but
the again miscellaneous sports Mondays tangent, but kind of like Chelsea were in the have been in the Abramovich era. How many only when they got the transfer ban were they ever actually playing the guys they developed.
right.
Everyone else was loaned or sold. So
Yeah, it it's weird. It's weird. It's frustrating. But like you
yeah,
said, you got to take the proper um precautions with COVID-19. This is gonna hurt. I think the future, and I just don't know about this Pirates pen, dude. Like Clay Holmes is awful. Dovydas Nevraskis needs to go back to Lithuania.
I remember when we went on that big winning streak, that big winning streak that we were talking about, and then to preserve arm safety while we were on the big run, we killed all of our momentum because guess who we started instead of someone else? I forget who it was. Guess who we started instead? Clay
Clay
Holmes.
Holmes.
Clay Holmes. And that killed not only our momentum for that game, but it killed our momentum that entire rest of the season. We were never able to reach those heights that we had reached.
It's like, remember back when the Pirates were first trying to get good again, and they had like that 19 inning game against Atlanta,
Right.
and the dude was called safe when he was out by
Uh,
like a
don't
mile,
don't get me started on that.
and then we just imploded.
Uh, remember that was 9 years ago. Can you believe that?
Dude, I still remember being so pissed
I
about that.
remember that like it was yesterday.
Me too.
Yeah. But yes. Though it will be though it will be 11 days before our first official game, it will only be 5 days before our first exhibition game against a team not also called the Pittsburgh Pirates. We have made a little deal with the boys up by Lake Erie, the Cleveland Indians, who will play a 3-game exhibition series, um, alternating between PNC Park, then Progressive Field, then back at PNC Park. It all starts on July 18th, so again, 5 days from now. And then they will go up to Cleveland on July 20th, and then they will come back to Pittsburgh on July 22nd and finish it off. And then they will have another off day, and then they will travel to St. Louis to take on Les Cardinals.
And get shelled. Because that's exactly what happened.
The truth does hurt, does it not?
So what are your expectations for these 3 preseason games?
Um, Ultimately, uh, competent pitching.
It's important.
I think that ultimately, I would rather see us lose 2-1 or 3-2 than win 8-7. Ultimately, because I think the bigger question mark, because we know that we have that talent on offense to produce. We are completely not only uncertain but unconfident in the talent on the mound. So I would like to see at least to be able to see some semblance of optimism with the pitching staff and our bullpen. Keep in mind these are exhibition games, so our bullpen guys will likely be holding the brunt of things. But I would most definitely like to see some progress there. Um, yeah, that's my expectation. More like I said, more concerned about pitching than hitting because we can always kind of get hot once the season starts. But if your pitching starts off bad, it's really hard to kind of get off that schneid.
Yeah. I agree with you. I'd much rather see us, lose a couple games 2-1 and then win a couple 8-10.
Yes.
Because if you win a couple 8-10, then all our fears are true. You can score, but hell, you ain't stopping anyone. Um, I'm kind of glad it's against the Indians, a team that has experience with postseason baseball. Um, is probably going to win the division this year. A talented team. Glad those are what the three games are against some talent instead of like the Chicago White Sox or something. Just to kind of see, how we measure up. Um, yeah, I'm kind of excited just to see, how do the Pirates play against an actual team that's not themselves.
Definitely. Yep, really exciting stuff there. So almost done with this podcast. Thought we'd gloss a little bit over uh, the Pittsburgh Penguins now that the official schedule has been released. The Penguins, of course, will begin with the qualifying round. Of course, just missing out by a couple of points uh, on that automatic qualification spot. They're going to have to play against the Montreal Canadiens in Toronto on August 1st. That is a Saturday. That will be game one of the best of five of the series. That will determine who makes the playoffs. Uh, and then game two is going to be the next Monday. And then game three will be Wednesday. And then game four, if necessary, will be on Friday. And then game five will be actually the next day on Saturday, if necessary. So there'll be a back-to-back. Really, really kind of interesting stuff there. Hopefully it doesn't get that far, but you'll never know with the best of five format.
True. I think all Penguins but Nick Bukestad will be healthy. The Pirates just released their like 34-man. I mean, the Pirates, huh? The Penguins just released their 34-man roster. Of who they'll be bringing to Toronto. So that's exciting. Like I said, the only main guy who's not there is Bukestad. Everyone else is healthy. Will be good to go there. One last thing on baseball. Buster Posey is going to be missing the season. He is
I did hear
opting
that.
not to play.
Smart, yeah. Smart decision from him.
So it'll be interesting how many other quote unquote big name players will skip.
Yeah.
Because the more big name players skip, the better chance the
Yeah.
Pirates have of
Well,
not failing.
I definitely think I definitely think this should be viewed in a bit of a different lens because Buster Posey obviously uh had just his uh he has just become a father of twins who were born prematurely. And so they both have a compromised immune system because of their premature birth. Um, so I think that he definitely made the right decision staying home with his family, with his kids. They definitely need he definitely is definitely no blame on him skipping the season for that. But yeah, I think that's a bit different than missing the season for uh, just for yourself. But yeah, Buster Posey is obviously the biggest name. Aroldis Chapman also tested positive, so he won't be there right away with the Yankees. So we'll also have to see how that goes. But
Interesting.
yeah, we it'll be very interesting to see who ends up playing in the end, and both for baseball, hockey, and any other sport, setting on coming back.
But it seems like a lot of hockey players are coming back.
Well, mainly because it's not a whole full-fledged season, it's just playoffs mainly
Yeah.
for hockey. So ultimately the Stanley Cup Finals is gonna be in mid-September, so but
That's
it's
gonna
still
be
just a month and a half as compared to uh 2.5 months if you're baseball.
Yeah, plus what playoffs and stuff if your team makes it.
Yeah, that's true. So I think that pretty much does it. Does it not?
It does.
Cool. So, with that being said, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Pittsburgh Sportscast. If you're watching us on YouTube, remember to comment your questions or concerns below. We love to hear from all of our viewers. If you can let us know what's on your mind, that would be great. You can also tweet at us at PGH Sportscast or email us, Pittsburgh Sports Podcast at gmail.com. Uh, we'll let you guys know when we upload next because during these times it is often an inconsistent uploading schedule until we fully get back into the swing of things in the next coming months. So
Wow.
yeah, I was going to say, until we meet again, I'm Ryan,
And I'm Chris.
and we'll see you next time on the Pittsburgh Sports Cast. Stay safe, everybody.